Hello and welcome everyone on this official platform of Legacy IAS Academy. So today we are going to discuss one of the most important issues with respect to world history as well as geopolitics. Now why? Because this year we have completed 80 years of Hiroshima and Nagasaki incident. That is when US dropped atom bomb on Japan in Second World War in 1945, and this is 2025. So 80 years has been completed. So the title of our video is why World War III never happened, and it was not because of the nukes. It is not because of the nukes. So today in this session we are going to discuss about that why Third World War did not happen. What if I told you that the reason we are alive today is not because of the nuclear weapons, but because of the human wisdoms that we need to understand? That the world did not avoid World War III because of the bomb, but in spite of it, that peace, however fragile, was never built by missiles, but by the men who learned, stumbled, adapted and often failed in silence. 80 years ago, I would like to remember that incident. 80 years ago, Hiroshima was reduced to the ashes within a second. And it wasn't just the end of that city. It was just the beginning of a terrifying new era. The atomic age was started. And since then, we have lived under a silent sword hanging over our heads, like nuclear annihilation. There's a term called as nuclear annihilation. But here is the twist. And what is that twist? Despite Cold War tensions, global proxy wars and hair-trigger arsenals, World War III never came. Why? Was it mutually assured destruction? Or was it luck? Was it technology? Or was it something far more human, more fragile and more unexpected? So today, as Russia rattles nuclear sabers in Ukraine, North Korea tests missiles, and China builds an arsenal at a record speed, we must revisit the past to decode the real reason that the world did not burn, and whether we are wise enough to prevent it again or not. So stay with me, because what you will hear in the next few minutes, it will change the way you think about war, peace and the thin line that separates the two. So here, first of all, I would like to give you the main message. Now what is the main message? That world did not avoid a third world war. Not because of nuclear bombs themselves. It was because of wise decisions by the human leaders over the time. This is the main idea of our video. So first we are going to discuss the background, as you can see here. Now what is the background? So let's go to that Hiroshima incident. So the background here is 80 years ago in August 1945, the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima on 6th August 1945. And since then, no world war has happened, especially during the Cold War between the US as well as USSR. So what is the big question here? Did nuclear weapons keep peace during the Cold War era? So the answer is it is complicated. Now why it is complicated? First we need to understand what is the key idea, है ना? तो अब इसके पीछे key idea क्या है? So now try to understand that nukes, है ना? Now try to understand that nukes, when we call about nuclear weapons or nukes did not magically stop the war. It was the human strategies, it was diplomacy, it was leadership that kept the peace, not the bombs themselves. Now what did people believe? So try to understand what did people believe. So I would like to quote here, Harry Truman. He was the president of United States of America during the Hiroshima bombing, and he believed that bomb would maintain the world peace. इनका कहना था that bomb is going to maintain the world peace. Now what is today's public view? आज का public view क्या है? As you can see this data here. So today's public view, if you see, according to the Pew poll, according to this Pew poll, so try to understand, according to this Pew poll, 69% of Americans, they now say that nukes have made the world less safe. जी हाँ, nukes have made the world less safe. Now why this is so? As you can see here, that nukes are not human. That we need to understand. Nuclear weapons, they are not human. Weapons do not decide things. Leaders do. Okay. So leaders actually do. They actually avoid the nuclear disaster, and avoiding this nuclear disaster, they have taken various measures like good strategy, adjustment to new situations, okay, fallible human learning over the time. So these things are there. Now apart from this, there are certain theories that try to explain peace also. Now what are those theories? First of all, game theory. Game theory की बात करेंगे, and game theory by the thinkers at Rand Corporation. Now this Rand Corporation, it is a think tank in security policy and foreign policy. Now this Rand Corporation, तो अब Rand Corporation के कुछ scholars हैं, उन्होंने क्या कहा? For example, Thomas Schelling, he is economist and also talks about game theory. Then Herman Cahen, he was a physicist who coined the term mutual assured destruction. जी हाँ, as you can see here, Herman Cahen, physicist who coined the term mutual assured destruction. Now what did he say? Now he said, if both the sides have nukes that can destroy each other, then neither will attack. But today these theories were too simplistic. These theories are too simplistic that real politics is not like a chess game. Now the question again comes here is, who really kept peace? अब peace किसने बनाए रखा? That we need to understand. Who really kept the peace? So let me tell you, real life leaders. Now real life leaders like diplomats, strategists, leaders, and so these people who are constantly updated the United States of America policy to the changing times. So if you see Cold War era, so during Cold War era, what was these strategies from 1950s to 1990s? Cold War US nuclear strategy. So what are these strategies? First important strategy from 1950s till 1990s, US strategy during the Cold War era was nuclear strategy. First was massive retaliation. Second, new look. Third was flexible response. Fourth, strategic stability. Then one madman theory also came, and then limited nuclear war, and various other measures have been taken. So all these measures evolved over time, and no one strategy was enough. That means constant adaptation was the key in this. So with respect to this, I would like to mention some of the case studies. So I will explain here case studies of two important presidents of United States of America who came at the end of or you can say at the end of Cold War era or during the end of Cold War era. Okay. Now first of all, so try to understand this. Now, so as you can see here, case studies, two presidents at the end of Cold War. Now first, Jimmy Carter, 1977 to 1981. So I would like to explain his strategies. कौन कौन से पॉलिसीज, कौन कौन से मेजर्स लिए गए थे जिमी कार्टर के द्वारा. सो फर्स्ट आई वुड लाइक टू टेल यू a short background of Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was a former nuclear engineer. As you can see here, he was a former nuclear engineer. He spoke at the United Nations in 1977 and he called for a world without nuclear weapons. Ji haan, he called for a world without nuclear weapons, and that is why he tried to sign the SALT II treaty. Ji haan, he tried to sign SALT II. SALT II treaty. It was an arms control deal with USSR, but it was failed. It was failed. And ironically, it approved neutron bomb. This treaty approved neutron bomb, like kill people, not buildings. Buildings को कुछ नहीं होना चाहिए, kill people. But later they cancelled it due to European allies' concerns. Okay. Then he also introduced the presidential directive, okay, which is called as Presidential Directive 59. And then the policies were shifted from mutually assured destruction to countervailing strategy. And they also started targeting the USSR military, not civilians. Okay, they started targeting USSR military, not civilians. And they also focused on second offset strategy. Second offset strategy का मतलब क्या है? What is second offset strategy? Now this strategy says that less manpower, more technology. That means like electronics, computing, advanced manufacturing, these things should be there. So overall, Carter started the idealistic and ended up pragmatic. Remember this thing. He started idealistic but ended up pragmatic. Now, second important leader of United States of America, Ronald Reagan. Now we need to understand about Ronald Reagan, and tenure was from 1981 to 1989. Now Ronald Reagan government, as you can see here, okay. Now surprisingly, he was an anti-nuclear as early as 1945, and he also called mutually assured destruction as abhorrent, and he also used carrot and stick policy. Now what is carrot and stick policy? Now try to understand. He said, now first of all, stick policy. So what was his stick policy? First thing, massive, that is the stick policy, massive military buildup, deployed peacekeeper intercontinental ballistic missiles, and he also continued Jimmy Carter's plan to deploy perishing as well as cruise missile in Europe to counter the Soviet SS-20s. That was his strategy. And despite 1 million protesters in Europe in October 1983, he convinced three important leaders. As you can see here, he convinced three important leaders. कौन से? Margaret Thatcher, UK, Helmut Kohl, Germany, Francis Mitterrand, France, to support all these things. Now what was his carrot policy? He negotiated with Mikhail Gorbachev also of USSR. And then Mikhail Gorbachev was the president of USSR when USSR got disintegrated. So he negotiated with Mikhail Gorbachev. Okay. And he also signed INF Treaty of 1987. He also signed INF Treaty of 1987. Now what is INF Treaty? It banned medium range missiles. Okay. It set the stage for START Treaty. जो आप देखेंगे, it set the stage for START Treaty. That is in 1991 under George H.W. Bush. These things were there. And apart from this, various strategic defense initiatives were also there. Strategic defense initiatives. Now, as you can see here, strategic defense initiative, which is also called as Star Wars. इसी को कहा जाता है Star Wars. Strategic Defense Initiative. Now, what was that? Reagan's dream of a space shield against the nuclear missiles. And critics said it was technologically impossible and it never happened. Then come to disintegration of USSR, that is Soviet Union got collapsed. That means end of Cold War in 1991. Okay, so USSR got disintegrated in 1991. USSR falls and world hopes for a post-nuclear era. But now what happened? At present, what is going on? A new nuclear age. At present, a new nuclear age is going on, as you can see here. That is, Russia's Putin threatens to use the tactical nukes in Ukraine. North Korea refining its ballistic missiles. Okay, and China is building a huge nuclear arsenal and very fast. So we are actually entering in a new Cold War era. Now what should US do now? So what United States of America should do now? So let's try to understand. First important thing, encourage allies like, US should encourage its allies like South Korea, Poland, and even Japan to develop the nuclear capability but not build actual bombs. Okay. Second, US should focus on deterrence. Ji haan. So US focus should be on deterrence. That means tactical nukes on submarines, which is harder to destroy. And then United States of America should upgrade intercontinental ballistic missile, which is around $1.2 trillion program, okay, which began under the Obama administration. And then US should limit new B-21 bombers to 100 since air forces are vulnerable. Then US should try to bring China into an arms control deal, which is likely to fail, but it is good for US for their global image. Okay, US should save the START treaty with Russia, which is going to expire soon. And then US should also sign formal defense treaty with Saudi Arabia as well as UAE. उसके बदले में क्या होगा? In return for recognizing the Israel. उसके बदले में US क्या कर रहे हैं? US बोल दे इन गल्फ कंट्रीज को that you should recognize Israel. So this can actually prevent the nuclear arm race in the Middle East, but it is delayed due to the Gaza war. That is the main scenario. It is delayed because of Gaza war. Then drop, and US should also drop Trump's Golden Dome, okay, Golden Dome missile defense idea, like strategic defense initiative, like Star Wars. It is not realistic at all. Instead, US should invest in West Coast missile defense to stop North Korea. So these things should be there. So final warning, if you see, the biggest danger is human misjudgment, not the bomb itself. And US must keep adapting its nuclear policy. Smart human choices are still the key to avoid this disaster. So bottom line of this video is bombs do not make peace, people do. And we need smart, adaptable leaders now and more than ever. So this is all about the nukes war. Clear? So the atom bomb, when we say atom bomb did not prevent World War III. Humans did. Fragile, imperfect, okay, ambitious, as well as contradictory. It was not the power of destruction, but it is the strength of the restraint, the art of diplomacy, as well as the courage to adopt to save the world, which is done by the humans, leaders, especially leaders and diplomats. So from Henry Truman's hopes to Jimmy Carter's struggles to Reagan's contradiction, the Cold War was not a static standoff, but it is a chessboard of evolving minds. Remember this thing. So what prevented the global disaster was not a theory, but action. It was not doctrines, but decisions. And today, in what many call as new nuclear age, the question is not just about the weapons. It is about us, our choices, our leaders, our willingness to evolve once again. Because history does not repeat, but it rhythms. Okay, it rhymes. And if you are watching this, you are part of a generation that may have to write the next chapter of nuclear diplomacy. So let's learn from the past, not to fear it, but to outthink it. And if this video made you think differently, if this lit a spark in your mind, then like this video, share this video and subscribe our channel Legacy IAS Academy. Because the world needs more thinkers, not just reactors, because your mind is your greatest weapon. Use it wisely. Thank you so much.